Think about it. Use your imagination. Good. Make lists. Good. Make lists. Okay.
Yes.
What happens if you don't know a word? Do you use your dictionary?
Yes.
You don't have to. It's okay when you're brainstorming. Yeah, if you're brainstorming, you can use, what can you do? A similar word. Or what else can you do?
Your own language.
Right, you can use your own language. It's okay when you're just getting ideas and collecting information to use your own language. Okay? So, what is this called? Brainstorming. Okay, we're going to do this today. We're going to brainstorm. Now, when you start to think about the picture, what sort of information are you going to need? What things will you want to write about your picture? Okay, where the story takes place. When what? When the story is happening, okay? Who's in the story? Maybe the names of the characters, okay? What else? What the story is about, okay? Or what's happening. Okay, what else? How? How is it happening? And why? Why are the people doing these things? Okay? All right, so this will help you come up with ideas about what's going on in your picture. And what I'd like you to do right now is quickly write down your ideas, okay, for your picture. You don't have to write complete sentences, okay? Don't worry about grammar or spelling, and just quickly write.
The students have already chosen a picture and have thought about what they want to write. But you're having them prepare a list. Why do you do this?
A list allows them to record their ideas for a given topic. It is something to refer back to. It's a jumping off point.
Why do you tell the students that it's okay to write in their own language?
Well, the object is to keep the ideas flowing. Rather than slow down the creative process by getting hung up on a word here or there, they can write the unknown word in their own language and go back later to find the translation.
Is it necessary for the students to share their ideas before they begin to write?
Well, by sharing their ideas orally, the students can practice the necessary vocabulary and sentence structure they will need to use in their writing. They are also experimenting with language ordering and sequencing. Other students' reactions may help them clarify their own stories. Also, they're practicing their stories with their intended audience. And finally, sharing their stories helps to build the students' interest in them as well.
Because if you go to the school, you don't have to hold the flower.
Did you think she come from China, Yankees or something like that?
Oh yeah.
Because
Maybe it just come out from the dentist. Cleaning, yeah.
Clean her teeth. This could be her.
Great love story.
After the pre-writing activities of making a list and sharing ideas is completed, Jane prepares the students to write their first draft.
Now, what's the first draft? What's the first draft? I'm sorry, Abdul?
That's the first paper you write down.
It's the first paper. It's the first time you write it down on paper. Now, when you're writing the first draft, what's important to think of? Your ideas, okay? Do you worry about grammar? No. Do you worry about spelling? No. What about punctuation? Do you have to worry about your format, indentation, and all that? No. What's the important thing is to write your ideas down quickly, okay?
If the students don't know a word, can they use a dictionary?
As in the pre-writing activities, the students should be focusing on the ideas for their stories. If they get hung up on a word, it interrupts their flow of ideas.
I see that you told the students not to worry about grammar or spelling. Aren't these necessary for good writing?
They are important, but there's a time and a place for them. It's important to remember that the first draft is a flow of ideas, and editing interrupts the creative process and focuses the students' attention on form rather than content.
When the students have finished their first draft, Jane will collect the papers and read them. They will be returned in about a week. Approximately a week has passed. Jane reviews the stages of process writing they are using, and she introduces revising.
A good paper. So revising is really the most important step, and this is where you have to really work hard. And this is the most painful step. You understand? This is the difficult one, okay? Because today what we did, the exercises we did today, it's hard. You have to think hard about how you want to change things, because there's many possibilities, okay? So the first question I want you to ask yourself when you're revising is there anything I want to change? Am I happy with my paper? Is there something I want to add or something I want to take away? Can I make this sound better? And finally, after you decide this is what you want to say, is there a better way to say it that makes it clearer, okay?
After the review of revising, she will pass back the papers to the students.
Okay, very well. Here, read what I say about it, okay? And then I'll come back and talk to you, okay?
Okay, very nice. Okay, this Donna told you about Norman Rockwell, huh? Yeah? Okay, good.
I've written some comments right here, okay? And I'll come back and talk to you about them.
Okay, very nice. Nice story.
Okay? I've just asked you some questions.
When I was a little kid, I got a paperback all marked up in red. Why didn't you correct the students' papers like this?
Well, I wanted the students to focus on the content of their papers and not the mechanics. Given a choice, students will only focus on the mechanics and not the content.
What kinds of comments did you write on the students' papers?
I emphasized the positive aspects of their writing and told the students what worked, and then asked questions about points that were unclear. I always asked, is there anything you want to change?
Why are you so intent on emphasizing the positive?
By emphasizing the positive, I'm trying to set up a comfortable atmosphere for the students to write in. In the traditional writing classroom, students will turn in their papers knowing they'll be returned with all their problems highlighted. There's rarely recognition by a writing teacher of the different students' feelings and ideas. And the writing teacher tends to focus on the mechanics of the paper rather than the content. So few students in the writing classroom enjoy the experience. It's very difficult to be creative and share your feelings and ideas in a threatening environment. So it's important to make the writing experience a positive one.
Why is a conference necessary?
To clarify my comments and to possibly elicit from the students other ways of saying something. Again, the most important aspect of the conference is to reinforce the positive aspects of the students' writing.
It's not throwing, it's put in the...
You're right,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
But what would you think she'd say? If you were going to write down what she said, what would she say?
Oh, honey, oh, darling, what happened to you? Do you want to leave? Yeah.
Okay, all right. Do you think he always does this?
No.
No. So he's usually a good baby.
Yeah, he's tired.
He's tired. Why is he tired?
Maybe he wants to go to sleep.
After conferencing, Jane groups the students to allow them to further revise their stories so that the writers receive feedback from their intended audience.
Look at your paper again. See if there's anything you'd like to change.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add or take away.
Yeah.
Okay? And also look at each paragraph and make sure there's a main idea there. Make sure you know what the main idea is in each paragraph. Okay? So now's the final revision. Now's the time you can look and see if there's anything else you want to change. Okay?
So what happens next?
Well, I don't know. It's really up to the student or students. It's not a matter of going through a series of sequential steps. There are different stages that a writer can go through, but each writer may go through different stages and at different times. They may return to a stage or even skip a stage. It's helpful to think of writing as a journey. The journey begins with an idea, and before the writer puts the pen down, they have written, revised, and even changed or eliminated the original idea. However, if the student is happy with the content, then they can begin editing.
At the end of this class, some students will choose to hand in their papers, while others may decide to take home their papers to work on further revisions. Jane is working with the students on editing. A week has passed since all the students finished their revisions.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to do some exercises with you to show you how to do some editing. So I'll show you an exercise, and then you're going to look at your paper and do the same thing with your paper or with another student's paper, okay? So we'll go through like 2 or 3 different steps of editing.
Why did you structure the editing so much?
These are new writers of English. Many of them have never edited their work before. The structured editing focuses the students' attention on the writing mechanics they can understand and handle.
Couldn't the students just edit their own papers? Why make it another group exercise?
Professional writers don't edit their own work. They rely on editors. It makes sense to have an objective reader. The writer is so close to his or her work. Everything may sound correct because the writer has read it so many times. Also, in an ESL class, students are able to share their strengths and knowledge when working cooperatively.
The students have 2 or 3 days more to work on their papers. With final editing finished, the students will decide how they want to publish their stories.
This morning we're going to share your writing. And you decided to share your writing by telling each other your stories and by also making a bulletin board. So I have a book of your writing right now called B4 Creative Writing. Okay? So I'll hand these out to you, and you can share your writing. You can read your stories to each other. And then after you finish that, we'll go make the bulletin board. Okay.
Miss Genesi was a teacher in an elementary school in the United States. She has been teaching mathematics. She was a good and friendly teacher, and the students liked her. One day, Miss Genesi was late to the school. The weather was cold. In the hall, she took off her coat and came into the classroom.
By teaching writing as a process, the students seem to both enjoy and learn a great deal about writing. I was pleased to see how much their writing improved over the course of this project.
We have to work, but we promise you from this moment to have time for you, okay? Mike asked, "Are you sure?" His mother answered, "Yes, we are." Her son said, "Thank you." Mike's father said to the policeman, "Thank you very much for everything." The policeman